an introduction to counseling and clinical psychology at Hiram College. I am required to practice counseling skills with volunteers. I appreciate your willingness to work with me on this class assignment. You may choose to talk about the topics of real concern to you, or you may prefer to role play an issue that does not necessarily relate to you. Please let me know before we start whether you are talking about yourself or role playing. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, please let me know, and either we can skip the question or stop the interview. Here are some dimensions of our work together. Confidentiality. As a student, I cannot offer any form of legal confidentiality. However, anything you say to me in the practice session will remain confidential, except for certain expectations that the state law requires me to report. 1, a serious issue of self-harm to yourself. 2, indications of child abuse or neglect. 3, any other special conditions as required by our state. Audio and or video recording. I will be recording our sessions for personal listening and learning. If you become uncomfortable at any time, we can turn off the recorder or redirect the angle. I will be using the videos to reflect on my skill development. The recordings may be shared with my professor, Dr. Andrew White, and or students in my class. You'll find out that recording does not affect our practice session, so as long as you and I are comfortable. Without additional permission, recordings and any written transcripts are destroyed at the end of the course. Boundaries of competence. I'm an inexperienced interviewer and I cannot do formal counseling. This practice session helps me learn interview skills. I need feedback from you and my performance and what you find helpful. I may give you a form that asks you to evaluate how helpful I was. I don't think they needed that. Anyway, are you gonna role play or are you?
I will role play.
Okay, good, because I don't want you to tell everyone some embarrassing story about how it traumatized you or something.
Yeah, constantly poking me in the eye.
Okay. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right.
Is it okay if I record this session?
Oh, of course, yes.
And is it okay if I take any notes? Any notes that I do take, I can give the copy to you, but they will be shared with my colleagues.
Yes, that sounds fantastic.
All right. So tell me what brings you in today.
Well, I've just been having some issues with my parents lately. I feel like, the communication with them is very lacking. They don't listen to me.
In what ways are they not communicating with you? Are you just not talking back and forth? Are you just ignoring each other? In what ways are they not communicating or you're not communicating with them?
I think it's more like I tell them things and then issues I have or anything, and they just don't really listen or respond, I think, appropriately.
How do they respond, if I may ask?
They can get I don't want to say aggressive, but I feel like our conversations are more yelling and arguing rather than us talking back and forth.
Have you tried a different approach to talking to them? What is your approach right now to trying to communicate with them?
Usually if I have an issue, or just anything, I'll go up and talk to them. And, I'll present something as a talking point. And sometimes things usually turn into a lecture or them being oh, you can't joke about that. Or,
So, give me an example of what you may ask or want to talk about with your parents.
Let's say I want to talk to them about the coronavirus vaccine. I'll go up and I'll just be or it'll be on the news. And they'll be oh, the coronavirus vaccine, I'm not getting that. And I'll be well, have you actually researched it? And I feel like they don't listen when I'm oh, if you do research and look things up, they don't really take that to heart. They'll just kind of start arguing.
Do you think that you might sound a little cynical or what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe facetious when you're asking, like more accusatory
You know
than
what?
really asking?
I might be. I should probably, not. I do probably sound a little stuck up sometimes when I talk about it.
So you said that you're. So how is your emotional communication? Like, are you guys like on the same wavelength, or do you struggle in that aspect as well?
I think, sometimes that can be a little better, but then also sometimes not. I feel like, sometimes my parents do guilt me into doing things, and then like if I bring up that they're guilting me into things, they'll be like, "Oh, well, it's not my fault that you're feeling that way. I didn't try to do that."
So you say your parents guilt you into things. I'm assuming that they are guilting you into something that you don't want to do, or they want you to do it for them. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's kind of something along those lines.
And how does this make you feel? Does it make you like, yeah, just tell me how it makes you feel.
I just think it can be frustrating because it just feels like they're invalidating that, they made me feel that way. Even if they weren't trying to, I wish they'd, take better precautions to not.
Oh, they say you said they're invalidating you even though it's not um, intentional. Have you ever brought this up to your parents?
I don't know if I've ever actually talked to them about it or if it's just kind of like I just feel like I just don't want to get into that argument with them.
So it seems to me that you're kind of afraid to talk to your parents because you feel like every conversation is going to end up in the same way. It's going to be a lecture, it's going to be an argument, and they're going to invalidate you. And it seems to me that you are approaching your parents the same way every time, and so you're just getting the same response every single time with the arguments and the invalidation. So how do you think you can approach your parents next time?
Mm, maybe I don't know, I feel like a lot of the times it could be like me and my brother both approaching my parents or maybe just like one parent because sometimes they work at different times. So maybe if I were to just sit down with one of them at a time so it doesn't feel like I'm trying to attack or, outnumber them if like I sit down with my siblings and then my parent, maybe just like a one-on-one thing.
So you say that you have a brother. Is he older or younger?
He's younger.
Okay. Does he get the same sort of treatment you get?
I think he's favored, um, but not like drastically so. Like I don't think, I just think sometimes like in conversations, you know, they might be like, or they might say I don't do as much around the house as him, or just kind of stuff like that.
So your parents compare you to him. Am I right saying that?
Yeah, sometimes.
So do you think that your brother being favored by your parents somewhat or most of the time may affect how you approach them when you're talking to them about your problems? Like you might feel like your feelings don't matter as much, so maybe you're a little hostile, I want to say, when you ask these questions or come up with solutions to stuff.
Yeah, that kind of might be it. That also might be like, me also like sounding stuck up when I try to bring things up, or yeah, it might be that kind of bleeding into that. I never thought about it like that.
Okay. Is there anything else that I'm missing or anything else you want to talk about?
Not today, I don't think. There's nothing I can think of.
All right. Well, thank you.
No, thank you.